Everyone, it's LS, and it's patch 14.3, and this is actually a pretty big deal for North America, who obviously plays on the live patch, and there are some notable changes actually in this patch. So Riot keeping up the typical trajectory of early season patches, in which they're really meaningful, but again, we do have to wait. 14.6 is like that's where the doomsday stuff begins to happen. Vanguard, it was previously communicated in 14.2 notes that we'll be introducing Vanguard, the Riot anti-cheat software that will be required for all League of Legends and Teamfight Tactic games. However, this change has been rescheduled due to some critical bugs with the client pop-up that we're planning to have in 14.2, etc. So it's not quite there yet. If we rerun at a later point, we can manually rerun, okay. This does not mean Vanguard is active or being used for League yet. This is just to give players ample heads up and opportunity to be ready. It's a requirement, okay. Windows minimum spec update. This is really big. Beginning Wednesday, February 21st, patch 14.4, we are updating our, well, this is actually incorrect. It's Thursday, I believe, the patch goes out this year, right? I think it's Thursday that it actually goes out according to the little patch schedule, so that's a little bit strange. We're updating our minimum system requirements. We'll no longer be supporting Windows 7, 8, and 8.1 for all League of Legends Teamfight Tactic games. To maintain the stability and performance of our games, we sometimes need to deprecate support for legacy operating systems that aren't widely used by our players. If you're still playing on these versions of Windows, please consider upgrading. Okay, so this is fine. Obviously, I'm always a big fan when Riot continues to upgrade things, and we've also seen that they did a major graphics overhaul. I wonder if another major graphics overhaul is on the horizon, perhaps for the 15-year anniversary that is going to be coming up, and maybe they would announce that, obviously, at Worlds. I think that would be really good. All right, champions. Let's jump right into it. So Aurelion Sol is actually broken now. Like, this is really weird. So the mana cost per second, 45 to 65 to 30 to 50. Massive mana reduction. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This is a really, really big deal because, again, this is per second, and he's just getting a flat 15 ripped off level 1, and it stays that way forever. Stardust stacks per champion burst is 1 to 3. Now, I'm going to bring up why this is really important in a second. Astral Flight mana cost is also down by a flat 30 when he casts it early on, and it goes and stays that way for eternity. Cooldown 22 to 16 to 15 to 11. Doesn't even make sense. Now, obviously, his W is kind of fake news in the sense that it doesn't require ability haste. Aurelion Sol in general does not require ability haste because he's reset city. So this was also one of the reasons why in the past, people that would build Leandries on him and they would build other ability haste items, etc. doesn't make any sense because Aurelion Sol is a burst-centric champion. You go and look at his playstyle, everything that he does, it's all burst-centric. So the cooldown doesn't matter except for early game. And for a lot of people that don't know, you have not watched the Azir 1 tricks in, Korea or something like that, the trades that Aurelion Sol can actually dish out early on are very, very, very strong. So now he's getting more burst stacks, and he has a lot more mana to play with. Q Breath of Light bonus damage, 14 to 20% to 18 to 26. Doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense. They give him basically his rank 4 bonus, and then it scales even harder now. So his damage is scaling harder. Now, E-Singularity, this is where people will misinterpret this. Stardust stacks per champion takedown is 5 to 2. So this is if you actually get the kill. Then you end up missing 3, okay? Stardust stacks per epic monster takedown is also 5 to 2. This matters if, like, you actually participated in the dragon, you eat it, or, like, Herald or something like that. Not the end of the world. Also not guaranteed to happen every game. Stardust stacks per cannon minion takedown 3 to 2. So for people that don't know, cannon is every 3 waves until 15 minutes, and then it's every 2 waves until 25 minutes, and then it's every single wave. So Aurelion Sol is actually not losing a whole lot of stacks here because, again, the number of cannons that you're actually losing, now this is also assuming that you get the takedown on them, when you compare it to the amount of burst stacks that you're now going to get, because you're getting 2 per burst stack per trade on the enemy champion, this is not going to do anything. Aurelion Sol is going to have more stacks. Stardust stacks per large monster takedown, this is also kind of fake because this doesn't really happen. So Aurelion Sol is going to have more stacks. His Q is going to deal more damage. He has more mana to play with. And itemization is now also a lot better for him. Doesn't make any sense. 2 of the most popular mid laners in the game right now are Azir and Orianna. They can't stop his W when he casts it. This is a really big deal. Both of those champions obviously want to go late game. Aurelion Sol is the king of late game. It's really hard to lose a competitive setting game with Aurelion Sol once the game timer reaches a certain point. So I do really hope to see the Skies Descend, obviously, in LCS or even CB LOL this upcoming weekend when I do the co-streams for both. Azir, base health regeneration is decreased 725. Not the end of the world. He's going to end up losing an auto attack in lane. Doesn't matter. Learn to draft better. And Azir will not actually be as problematic as people are making him out to be. Brand, passive damage to monsters decrease. Bug fix to passive Q damage is decreased. Passive Ablaze, down by 20% is really big. That is massive. Blaze no longer deals more than 2% max health damage over a single application. That is okay. Q Seer, 80 to 265% AP, 270 to 190, so losing 10 flat, and no AP percent there. Okay, so his jungle clear is significantly hit. That is something. Now, his scaling is still going to be a monster, and he is still going to be effective, and that is interesting. That obviously this is happening. So feels a little bit bad. Brand is still going to be like almost Z inside of the jungle as like a counter pick or an S pick. And yeah, I mean that these are things that you are going to have to keep in mind. Corki, package duration decreased, W cooldown is decreased, mana cost decreased, damage increased, malignance no longer counts towards Eclipse's passive. Special delivery 60 seconds to 45 seconds. W Valkyrie 20 to 16, 20 to 12. Mana cost is 100 to 80, and then damage per second 60 to 180, plus 40% AP, 60 to 180, 60%. So he's getting a lot of ability power buffs. Now, one of the things that is very confusing, obviously, about Corki is everything that is going on with his current itemization and Eclipse and all this other good jazz. So let me come and show this. So basically here, you get 70 attack damage, 15 ability haste, Ever Rising Moon. Hitting an enemy champion with 2 separate attacks or 2 separate abilities within 2 seconds deals bonus physical damage equal to 4% of the target's maximum health. And it grants Corki a shield equal to his bonus AD. So this is one of the really confusing things where it does 4% of the target's maximum health, okay, when you hit them with 2 separate things. Liandry just objectively deals more damage without a condition. So it's really strange. Because Liandry also ramps all of his damage. Ramps his Prosperous Bomb, ramps his Gatling Gun, ramps his auto attacks, etc. And this used to be a really old argument for people that used to watch me in 2017, 2018, 2019 when I used to talk about the Madness passive. This is really confusing to me. So I actually don't understand the Corki stuff. I don't understand the Eclipse Malignance hype. And now I'm really glad that his AP is actually getting buffed because it means that Corki can go Liandry's. And yeah, I mean, he can go Liandry. I mean, his itemization just needs to change. It does need to include Malignance, and it does need to include Liandry's. And I'm glad that there's going to be some love that is moving towards that. Ezreal, Q damage decreased, R damage decreased, and Dragnar is crying right now. No, not really, because Ezreal is just in a super broken spot, you know, especially in the hands of really good and competent players. So 20 to 120, 135, 15% to 20 to 120, 130. So he loses 5% AD. Not the end of the world, honestly. It is a very spammable ability. How much AD does Ezreal actually get in a game? And then you do the math there. You take that number as X, multiply it by Y, which is the amount of hits that he lands inside of a team fight, and then you get Z. And this is a really cool thing that, you know, in one of the conversations, which I'll be uploading to Patreon, obviously I just did my 14-13 competitive tier list stuff. And while this is going to be blurred on your screen right now, these, you know, I mean, you're not going to be able to make out the champions and stuff like this. Mid lane not totally done yet. There's going to be a lot of audio that'll be uploaded to Patreon, and then up audio, just like the last tier list that I did with various pro players, will be uploaded and talked about all the champions and whatnot. One of the fun things that you can obviously do, and one of the conversations that I have with Crownshot, which people will be able to listen to, is determining how much certain changes, not necessarily just this one, but also the Zeri change that is supposed to be in this patch, and how you can just actually break it down in your head as to what is it actually equaling. And we'll talk about that when we get to the Zeri change, but just keep that in mind. True Shot Barrage also is going down in damage, not the end of the world. Illaoi, passive technical range increased, damage is decreased. Okay, this is different than PvE. The map changes introduced in 14.1 resulted in a drop in power for Illaoi, mainly due to her tentacles being designed around the old terrain. In this patch, we're looking to make her tentacles more reliable on the new rift. However, the reliability really means overall damage, hence the tentacles damage reduction. Okay. So, tentacle range is going up by 125. That's actually a really big deal. It's a really big deal for mid lane now because there's certain poke that she's able to get access to that she wasn't able to prior. So, this is very interesting. Tentacle damage 10 to 180 plus 100 per 20%, 40% to 9 to 162. Interesting. She's not losing a lot early, is losing a noticeable amount later. 5% AD also comes off of her in exchange for the added range. I would say that it's a buff because she's already going to overkill later. Karma now. Let's take a look at this. Our Q Soul Flare damage is decreased. Our Mantra, 35 to 350 plus 70% AP, 40 to 310 plus 50%. So she's losing a lot of base damage on it later, but Karma only puts Q to 3 points. So this is not a big deal. So let's take a look at point 3. So she's losing 25 damage on the RQ. She's not always using RQ inside of laning phase. Typically what's happening is she's just using inside of laning phase, W in a lot of cases. She'll use RW. RQ is definitely a thing, but this doesn't matter. In the later stages of the game, she has 3 points in Q, and then she maxes E. And at that point, yeah, like mid-game team fights and whatnot while she's maxing E, this doesn't impact her at all because she's not using the R. Karma is still going to be absolutely busted. And, I mean, she can even be played ADC. Lillia, passive damage decreased, and, okay, passive damage decreased, Q damage decreased, passive, Dream-Laden Bow, maximum health damage 5% plus 1.5% AP, to 5% plus 1.25% AP, so that just feels really bad. Yeah, I don't understand why Lillia is getting nerfed like this, but it does suck. Yeah. Became much more niche in seasonal update, allowing her to access health on every slot and strong omnivamp that works overall with her kit. I think Lillia is generally tankier than before. I mean, it's fine if she's tanky. Making her good. Okay. Maokai. So this champion is absolutely nuts. Right now it can be obviously flexed between jungle and support. Base health is 7.226. Passive sap magic 4.3 based on level 2, 4 to 12.8. 4 to 34, sorry. Health flat. Plus 4% to 12% based on level, to 4 to 12.8% based on level. It just loses the 30. So Maokai basically needs to be full tank and have like what, 4,000 HP before this becomes a buff? He has to have like 4,000 HP before this becomes a buff. That is absurd. Like what? Okay. Q Bramble Smash. So Bramble Smash 8 to 5 to 7 to 5, so he's getting it up more frequently early. Mana cost is also going to go down. Sapling Toss is also going to go down at later ranks. Huge for support Maokai. Very, very, very big for support Maokai and AP Maokai. So really big changes for AP Maokai here. And the mana cost on it is going to go up early but down later. So that's really nice. Our Nature's Grasp, the cooldown on it is going to go up by 10 seconds. Fake news. It's a setup ultimate, which means that doesn't even matter. Immediately comes off cooldown, does not really do anything. Nidalee, magic resistance growth increased, E-heal increased, bonus attack speed is increased. All really big buffs for top lane Nidalee. Magic resistance growth increased by an extremely negligible amount. Never mind, that's not doing anything. When you're getting, 0.15 MR per level, you have to get to level 10, you get 1 extra MR. Like, what on earth is that? It's so fake. E Primal Surge, minimum heal 35 to 95 plus 25. 27.5 to 50 flat to 150 flat. That's really big. Plus 35% AP. Maximum heal is still double the minimum. Okay. Bonus attack speed 20 to 60% to 30 to 70%. She gets a free 10. Really big changes to top lane Nidalee, but unfortunately I do not think that's actually real. Pyke. Base armor increased, Q damage increased, mana cost decreased, E bonus movement speed increased, E damage is decreased. Okay, so base armor up by 2, bone skewer 100 to 360% to 100 to 375%, 15% bonus AD. So if he's going full lethality, yeah, he'll get a little bit of extra damage, obviously, on the bone skewer, which only really every little extra bit to get you into that lethal threshold. Mana cost 74 to 90 to 70 to 90, so they're just cleaning up his mana early on. I think that's okay. W Ghost Water Die 40 plus 1.5% per 1 lethality, 45 plus 2%, so he gets 0.5% movement speed, which is extremely extremely negligible. But I guess it does add up once he starts getting like 3 items. Phantom Undertow damage is going to also go up by a pretty massive amount. So this combined with Bone Skewer getting you into the lethal range is going to be that much easier. But don't forget the durability patch did happen once upon a time. So really it's bringing Pyke back to somewhere he was at before. Does not change, however, that Pyke is still one of the best junglers in the game. Or not junglers, sorry. Supports in the game as a counter pick, being the physical damage assassin that he is. Now, speaking of junglers, Rengar. Base health decreased. Q bonus damage decreased. Health is going to go down by 30 flat. Really big nerf to top lane Rengar. Q savagery bonus damage is going to go down as well. And power damage is also going to go down by quite a bit. So really big nerfs to Rengar. In the hands of One Tricks, he really is sort of a different champion. So this is actually a little bad because you would really hope for some different kind of change to be happening with Rengar. So I'm not totally happy about this, but it is what it is. Shaco, mana regeneration growth decreased, W mana cost decreased, bonus damage to monsters increased. No longer one shot by grubs, E mana cost increased, R quality of life changes. Okay. So base stats. Mana regen growth is 0.45 to 0.35. Okay, it hurts support and stuff. W Jack in the Box mana cost at all ranks goes down. That's a big buff to support. Bonus damage to monsters is 10 to 50, 20 to 80. Big buff to jungle. Grub proof Shaco Jack in the Box no longer one shot by grubs. Very nice. E2 poison mana cost up by 10 does not matter. Although it's a nerf to support, but it doesn't matter because the box changes. R hallucinate. Shaco's clone duration now displayed on the HUD. Okay, very cool. All right, this is all fine. Shyvana, this does not matter because the AP ratio buffs that she's actually getting just do not actually change anything that you would do inside of a game. Taliyah, Q damage increased, E cooldown is decreased. So, all right, so the Q damage is increased again. Very extremely negligible amount, except for the rank 1, the rank 2, etc. Like this is really where you're looking at the damage, where she can be a bully. And then E Unraveled Earth, cooldown 16 to 14 to 14 at all ranks. Now, you just never put points in E. I mean, not that, you know, I mean, it's funny, right? You don't have to put any points in it. You just get it for free. So, I mean, okay, that's cool. Teemo Q quality life change. Teemo Q blind should now immediately apply to the targets hit by the Q, preventing Teemo from taking damage from an auto attack after the blind has been applied. I thought that it was that way. That's interesting. Trundle, base health decrease, Q damage is decreased. 686 to 650, he's losing an auto attack, and he's also losing 10 flat. This actually made me move Trundle out of a counter pick tier into just being like an A-B tier champion, which is pretty funny because that's how literally fringe this champion is and how dependent he is on being a counter. Twitch, E quality of life change, E contaminate. If Twitch uses E at the same time as poison expires on an enemy, they will now take damage based on the number of stacks they had when the poison expired. This should result in the E cast just being slightly more forgiving. That's very cool and also very thin on obviously his passive stack timings and stuff. Wukong, Q bonus range increased, E cooldown is decreased. Okay, so the bonus range being increased is nice early on. It lets you weave in a little bit more damage faster, makes his joust faster. The bonus AD doesn't really matter because even when you complete your first item inside of laning phase, you're basically getting 5 extra damage on your Q, and that's not going to change why you pick Wukong. You're griefing if you say that it is. Nimbus Strike goes down by a second. Yorick, passive summon leash range is decreased. Summons now gain bonus movement speed when returning to Yorick. Q heal adjusted, mana cost decreased, E cast time decreased, R bonus damage when attacking Maiden's target is adjusted. Okay, let's take a look at this. Passive, Separator Souls, summon leash range 2000 to 1600, totally fine. Yorick summons now gain bonus movement speed when returning to Yorick, very nice. Movement speed double is based on the distance between Yorick and the summon, very cool. Last Rites heal 10 to 68 based on level, doubled when below 50% to 10 to 68, plus 4 to 8% missing health, halved versus non-champions. This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. What a super buff. And the mana cost also going down by 5. Very, very welcome change. E Morning Mist, cast time 0.33 to 0.25. That's actually speeds things. It makes it harder to dodge. Considerably harder to dodge. R Eulogy of the Isles. Bonus damage when attacking Maiden's target. 369 maximum health. Capped at 100, 200, 300 for monsters. 2-second cooldown to 2.5, 3% maximum health. Capped at 100 versus monsters. No cooldown. Okay. No cooldown. Oh. Okay. Can you weave in 3? Yeah, I mean, I guess you can. I guess you can. The Captain 100 versus monsters obviously makes sense for like jungle, Baron, and all this other type of stuff. But the no cooldown. I mean, yeah, you're gonna be chasing things. I mean, it's a very nice buff. I mean, you're getting some love. Listen, Riot Games, please increase the cast range on his W by 150, instantly competitively viable. Literally it. He's instantaneously competitively viable if he just has 150 more range on that W. And the excuse that it would be too strong at that point, well, pick champions that are inherently good against Yorick. Like there's a lot of things, okay? When champions like Azir and Orianna can exist, you know, when champions can exist in any given role for a year long, and the argument is pick champions that are good against them, well, pro players don't do that anyway, right? We know that because people don't actually properly counterpick a lot of meta mainstays for a while. Zeri, base AD increased, R cooldown decreased, recommended items updated. So this is the conversation that you can find that I had with Crownshot when we upload the audio, probably tomorrow or the next day when this video goes out. Base AD is up by 3. Our Lightning Crash is going to go down by 20 seconds. Now, our Lightning Crash going down by 20 seconds, actually pretty interesting because it might mean that she can just cast it on recall, which is a pretty big deal when she's looking for lethal. So her base AD goes up by 3. What does that mean? Well, fortunately, when Kai'Sa was at Worlds and we were doing the thing where we started counting when Kai'Sa had Nashor's Guinsoos versus Nashor's like Ludens or Liandry's, whatever at Worlds, I started counting the amount of auto attacks that professional Kai'Sas were weaving inside of fights. Now, I understand that Zeri is obviously different than Kai'Sa. But in addition to Kai'Sa, we also did it for Caitlyn. And there were a lot of games where, you know, like we got to make fun of the amount of Caitlyn auto attacks and stuff like that. Generally, it seemed like, especially on Kai'Sa, it was very rare to see more than like 6 auto attacks, and that was very rare per you know, like per team fight or something. And we had like the 1-to-5 or 1-to-4 ratio on auto attack to W casts. For Caitlyn, sometimes the auto attacks were anywhere around like 5 to 8, right? So let's say that Zeri in an extended team fight, let's say that Zeri gets like up to 14, right? I think that's pretty fair. Like 14 meaningful auto attacks. Okay, so 14 times 3, right? You end up getting 42. So 42 damage, then it goes through 50% resistances, right? Because people's levels at that point. All right. We are actually having a conversation about 21 extra damage in a team. That's not real. It's just not real. Now, I mean, if she auto attacks, you know, 50 times or something like that, or not 50, you know, 30 times on a Baron, or something like that, or you know, 40 times on a, even that, right? Saving an auto attack. This is not super real. Now, it does amplify her abilities as well, but in laning phase, right? Generally, targets are going to have 30% resistance reduction, right? So the 3 damage that she's getting is actually becomes 2. Okay, how many autos are you weaving? Let's say you weave 10 in a trade. Okay, so 10 times 2, 20, right? And then that's what you get. You get half an auto attack extra inside of a trade. Now that can matter, but it's not why you're picking Zeri. You are not, no pro player in the world, none, no one. There's not one pro player in the world capable of drafting around an exact 20 damage 100% of the time. Or even 51% of the time, 52% of the time. So when changes like this happen in a patch, this is not enough justification to start suddenly playing the champion again. Zeri has a lot of other problems. Her items got indirectly nerfed, or they got directly nerfed. And also enchanters and these other types of things that she really liked to play with. Some of them are popular, others aren't, and honestly, the other matchups are just kind of brutal. Ziggs, base armor increased, armor growth increased, W cooldown decreased. So at this point, base armor is 18 to 21. Armor 4.5 to 4.7. These things do not matter. Again, this is mid lane, not 80 Ziggs. Cooldown is down by 4 seconds. That's actually good against Aurelion. So that is totally fine. But other than that, does not really matter. Zyra, base mana regeneration decreased, growth increase, Q mana cost decreased, WC charge on minion monster takedown is increased. Jungle Zyra was already something that I had in the tier list. W rampant growth C charge progression on minion monster takedown 20 to 35% is huge. Deadly Spine's mana cost going down by 15 doesn't really matter. She doesn't really have mana issues. Base mana regeneration 13 to 7. Okay, she has mana issues. Base mana regeneration growth 0.4 to 0.8. Okay, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Okay, Zyra already in a really good state. Talk about her a lot, and I will do that obviously in the video. The video will release later. Audio, like I said, will go out on Patreon, which Patreon has been very inactive, and I see a lot of your comments. I see your messages. I get your DMs on. Again, I was gone for a while, and I didn't know if I'd come back, so there's that. And then obviously 14.1, way too large, completely unpredictable. So I was going to put it out for 14.2, and then obviously the PBE and everything. And I just waited till 14.3, because this is going to be the important patch for like all the regions. So Guinsoos Rageblade, 30 to 35, ability power 30 to 35, and the build is better. Okay, this is totally fine. Pretty negligible, but whatever. Hullbreaker, big bug fix, don't care. Kaenic Rookern. This was my favorite thing. When I came back and everyone had been on the PBE, they'd been playing for 8 weeks and everything like that, and then I read this item for the very first time, and I saw when I was doing the co-streams and stuff, and I was looking at regions, people building Abyssal Mask, no one building Kaenic, and all this other stuff. I was so confused because this item is so broken. Magic Shield Strength, 20% of maximum health to 18%. Still broken. Shield Refresh cooldown 12 seconds without taking damage to 15. Absolutely still broken. This does nothing. This is the best magic resistance item. Then it's Force of Nature. It's not even close. This item demands champions exist that can build it. That's how you know an item's good. Rod of Ages, health going up by 50, mana going up by 100, really good rise buffs, very good Kassadin buffs, good Twisted Fate buffs. Who else? Not totally sure on other champions off the top of my head, but I think the rise stuff. Oh, Aurelion Sol. Sorry, we just talked about him. So in addition to Aurelion Sol having way less mana issues, he's also getting 100 mana for free. Oh, and he's getting 50 HP tank here. The Collector, attack damage 60 to 55. This was one of my favorite litmus tests the last 2 years because I had that Google document, which, you know, famously I did give to certain very notable pro players, you know, and I eventually showed it on stream and like all this other. This was one of the most confusing things because you could actually almost see the animal side of, you know, like the primal part of like the human brain when you would have a conversation with a pro player or like someone and they just would refuse to accept the really, I don't know, black and white reality of math on the items. And they would make these claims about these really disgustingly thin windows where they need the extra 10 AD and they needed the 5 armor pen, right? And it would take an extra 1 minute to stay in lane or something and farm the difference between Braided Dirk and like Last Whisper. They'd make the claim they need the Collector spike immediately and in order to do X, Y, and Z. And, you know, you go through 100 games and that instance never occurred. It's all of these intangible feelings that they can't substantiate, and that's where the problem that's you know wherein it lies is there's a feeling that can't be substantiated and we cling to it rather than actually looking at the objective numbers that are readily put into practice and then actually just going through the game yourself or with others and then looking at each instance where did it matter, did it matter, did it matter? And it's like people don't want to do that, and it's really weird. This was one of the more confusing items where Flat Earth truly did win. Like, that's the only way that I can describe it. If you were building Collector in the face of the math because you had a feeling or it felt good, you were a Flat Earther. Now that the item lost 580, like, that's great. Hopefully people build it less. This was a disgusting, disturbing item because you just saw how many people failed at reading. It was very confusing. So Youmuu's Ghostblade, and I'm sorry to say that so aggressively. It was really just gross. It was very akin to the Trinity Force Black Cleaver. a couple of years ago as well. Youmuu's Ghost Blade, out of combat movement speed 40 to 40, melee 20, range does not matter. Active bonus movement speed 20 to 20%, melee 15%, range does not matter. Item is really just way too good for specific things. Still going to be a meta mainstay on like lane graves and whatnot. So there's that. AP item and proc damage changes. Okay, so Sarah's Embrace, combined cost going down by 100, total gold cost down by 100. Really good buff for Aurelion Sol, Rise, and Kassadin. Echoes of Helia, yeah, try buffing it a lot more. Like, wait, what? The heal goes up, but the damage... No, Riot. No. Okay, Hextech Alternator, rev damage 50 to 125 based on level 65 at all levels. I said how disgusting this item was. It was way too much damage for how much it cost. It made no sense whatsoever when you combined it with other, items inside a laning phase. Supersonic damage is also going down. Never build this item, unironically. Never build this item. This is one of the worst AP items in the game. I will always take any opportunity I can, whenever co-streaming, whatever, to point out how horrible this item is. Do not build this item. This active is a complete joke. You do not need the dash. It's really bad. It's just a very bad item. Kraken Slayer, bring it down, or bring down damage. 35 to 85, 8 to 18, 65%, 60% AP, to 140 to 310, without the 65% total AD. Okay. You are getting 230, 65% total. I mean, it's going to be a buff in most cases for ADCs that, yeah, I think it's a buff in most cases, right? For ADCs that go like attack speed items. And just want that inherent base damage. Yeah, this is... Yeah, if you have Kraken Slayer, Infinity Edge, and LDR, and, like, Phantom Dancer, it's a buff. Right? It's a buff. Yeah, it's a buff. It's a buff at that point, I think. I can't run the numbers mentally off the top of my head. Lich Bane is getting nerfed, 75% base AD. I mean, I don't buy into hype on this item, so I just, I want to point that out. I don't agree with the item in a lot of ways, but that's for a different video. Luden's Companion down by 100, ability power up by 5, and fire damage is also up by 5. Really good. The item was already good, now it's getting better. Malignance down by 100, and the ability power down by 1% for AP. Magic Resistance Shred 10 at all levels, based on level before, so it's going to be a buff if you're rushing Malignance, nerf later on. Profane Hydra, this item is disturbingly broken. Super disturbingly broken. For some reason, they're buffing the cleave damage. Now, this is what makes Graves, lane Graves, able to come back again. Active heretical cleave damage against targets below 50%, 150% total AD to 130%. Okay, so the execute damage does go down a little bit, but the actual passive cleave damage going up is actually quite nice. Statikk Shiv down by 300, combined cost down by 300, electroshock damage to champion 90 at all levels. So this item is actually still good. I think pretty much only on like a handful of champions. I think it is still really good on AP Kai'Sa, who everyone is counting out. I don't know why. Kai'Sa just needs to go Statikk Shiv into immediately then just going AP, and there not being any other like weird items. Just literally Statikk Shiv, straight AP, play for W. That's it. Stormrazor, total AD going up by 10. Oh no, 90 to 25% total AD to just 100. That is a super bad nerf. The movement speed increase does not matter. Stormrazor now dead item. Storm Surge, ability power 90 to 95. Squall damage is going down quite a bit in the later stages. The ability power is up. Sundered Sky down by 10, but gains 150 HP. Honestly, you'll take that, I think, on the champions that are building it. I really do think that you're going to take that, so that's fine. Titanic Hydra, 50 to 50. Active Crescent, 6%, 3%, 4%, 2%. Okay, so a little bit of a nerf there. Totally acceptable. Rift Herald. The new Rift Herald has proven to be a bit too out of control, especially as players are learning how to steer correctly, so we're making the ability to turn... making the ability to turn a little bit easier. Damage from wall collisions, crashing into a wall while controlling Heller will deal damage equal to that. Okay. We don't have all game. Player summon Rift Herald trinket spawning has been sped up by 1 second. Okay. All right. That's totally fine. ARAM balance changes does not matter. Behavioral system changes. After reporting a player for verbal abuse and or hate speech, you'll receive a pop-up at the end of the game where you can easily block the player or change your chat settings. Increased the duration of most chat penalties. Okay, this does not matter. Okay. So the skins are obviously an important part for competitive. Again, I have a lot to say, and I have videos coming out this week that will talk about all of it. Overall, competitively, this isn't like a massive patch. Some of the really big problematic champions, they do get touched on. It's okay, but we have introduced some really big, I think, meta champions that are coming. I think Aurelion Sol is going to be nuts. Corki, when he's properly itemizing, going to be nuts. AP Maokai is coming back. Support Maokai coming back, right? These types of things I think are very, very valuable. Yorick headed in the right direction, right? Zyra jungle, Zyra support, itemization for like Rise Cossidon, Aurelion Sol, etc. All of these things really good. The skin line, honestly, guys, it doesn't do it for me. I'm just not a really big fan of the colors. I can appreciate them, though. I recognize that it's really good. Yeah, I recognize that the aesthetics are really cool. I just think so many of the champions' skins look way too similar with one another, and that's why I don't like it. And I understand it's a theme, but it still just feels like the theme is so... so vibrant, it's so in your face, that it just feels like it's meshing everything together, and I don't like that. But anyways, that is it for this rundown. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, obviously, here on the FlyQuest YouTube channel. And for the videos that I did mention, you can see them on my main channel in a few days. And yeah, that's it, 14/3. And then I will see you guys for the coach streams this weekend. Have a nice Lunar New Year. See you guys all later. Bye-bye.